Greetings from the sports desk. The latest edition of the Comrades Marathon will take place this weekend. Race organisers in the KZN capital are making sure their participants find things in order. The 2023 edition of the Ultra Marathon will begin at the Pietermaritzburg City Hall. Runners then make their way to the Kingsmead Cricket Stadium in Durban. The build-up hasn't been without controversy, though, with 25 athletes disqualified for giving false qualifying information. To chat to us about that and more is race director Rowyn James. A very good evening to you, Rowan. Thank you so much for your time. The big question is, are we good to go for Sunday? How are preparations going?
Good evening, Nandi, and good evening to the viewers. Yes, absolutely. The build-up has gone extremely well in the lead-up to race day this Sunday, the 11th of June. I've just come from the finishing venue where the race will finish at the Hollywood Bet Sahara Kingsmead Stadium. And the build-up is just about complete there in terms of the sign-off for the various authorities, being the fire department, disaster management, etc. The route is ready and prepared in terms of the roadworks that have had to take place along the route. So all going well there. And then tomorrow we will start the build-up at the City Hall in Pietermaritzburg for the start.
Let's talk about those 25 runners who are disqualified for falsifying information. How were they caught, and is this something that happens often?
Nandi, it's something that we as Comrades Marathon have decided that we really need to take a serious action against and action with. Yes, it's something that is prevalent, that has been going on for a while now, and it's really disappointing that people do that. And the sad reality is that it's just a small minority that are really spoiling it for the majority. And ultimately, it's disrespectful to the sport. It's disrespectful to the fellow runners. More importantly, it's disrespectful to the ethos, traditions of the Comrades brand. And the Comrades race has been around for 102 years. So we really appeal to people who want to cheat that it's just really not worth it. We will catch you. And then ultimately what's going to happen is that they are suspended or banned out of this year's race, and then we also ban them out of the next two races, which is 24 and 25. How we basically go about catching them is twofold. One, we verify the various results of the races that they've used as their qualifiers, and then secondly, we work closely with, in fact, all their own club teammates, fellow runners who blow the whistle on them and come forward, and collectively out of that information, we're able to then do an in-depth investigation into the allegations against them. We give them the opportunity to give their side of the story, and then we make a ruling based on that.
It's really not worth it, Rowan, to falsify information like that, because then you can't run for a couple of other Comrades Marathons. But let's go back to the race on a Sunday. Is there anything different that will be different in this edition compared to all the other races?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, Nandi. I think first and foremost, as I mentioned, is that the change of finish venue. Last year, the race finished at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. This year, the race will finish at Hollywood Bet's Kingsmead Cricket Ground. The last time the Comrades finished there was in 2016. The 2018 race and the 2022 races finished at Moses Mabhida, and then we've really returned to the home of a Comrades Marathon, being Kingsmead Cricket Ground. And one of the other big changes that we've made is that we've increased the prize money by 90%. So last year's winner got 260,000 Rand. This year's winner is going to get 500,000 Rand. If they break the best downrun time, then they will get a further 500,000 Rand. If it's the first South African over the line, it'll be a further 200,000 Rand. So all in all, the South African winner breaks the best downrun time, you're looking at a 1.2 million Rand payout. And yeah, it's quite a handsome payout. And then the finish venue obviously has been very well received by the runners, because effectively it's 2 kilometers shorter than what it used to be.
There's plenty of motivation for the runners that will be participating, especially the South African runners. Rowan, just my other question to you is that last year's race was in August, late August in fact, and now it's in June. Is there a reason for the changing in the dates?
Yes, so last year the race was held on the 27th of August, and the reason for that was effectively we were coming out of the back end of COVID. So at that stage there was still a lot of uncertainty of when the race could take place, would it take place based on COVID, bearing in mind that you have to book your race date with the federation a year in advance. Hence the reason that we moved the race out towards the end of August. Now that COVID is a thing of the past or out of the way, The race has returned to its traditional date, which was always the second Sunday in June, and it will stay there unless any untoward happens or unforeseen happens, or future potential pandemics or anything like that.
There's over 100 Russian athletes participating this time around. Is it a relief for you that all those issues that happened last year, particularly with the case of Alexander Morozova, are you happy that now you don't have to worry about that with over 100 Russian athletes participating?
Absolutely, Nandi. It's a massive relief for me, in particular as a race director. Is that last year, this time, I spent 3 days in litigation with all the nonsense and politics that was going on around that sort of thing. We are event organisers. That's what we specialise in. We treat all people equally, and it was sad that we had to get caught up in all this political toing and froing from that sort of thing, with indecisiveness of whether the Russians could or couldn't run. World Athletics about a month and a half ago put out a directive to say that that the Russians are now eligible to run again. The ban has been lifted by World Athletics, so it's been a huge relief this year that focus really on the actual organisation and presenting of this world-class event to the nearly 20,000 runners, instead of having to spend the days in the court just before the race day trying to fight a case that effectively was never going to be won.
Yeah, Rowan, thank you very much for your time and all the best for Sunday. I'm sure everything's going to go smoothly. That was Comrades Marathon Race Director Rowyn James. All right.